Nick, we're back and better than ever. Neighbors and Nugent, another round. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I don't know about better than ever, but I'm doing pretty good, man. How about you?
We got to set the bar high at the beginning. I'm doing good. Real excited about this show. Before we get to the menu, though, I don't know what I'm going to call this segment. It's maybe Shock Nick or it's the curveball, but you always hit it pretty good as an old baseball player, a star in your own right back in your college days. Last time I asked you about the buttoned-up collar, and we had a discussion about it. It's life and sports in the podcast, Nick. But off the bat, this is something I get every once in a while. I don't really want to offer my opinion. I just want to throw it out there, okay? In my mind, Nick, I really feel like I'm 25 still.
Yeah.
You remind me all the time that I'm not. Students always have reminders that I'm not. But this is something I would never do when I'm 25 or maybe 20 or 18. I'm at a restaurant, I'm at an airport, I'm somewhere, and I get someone who says, "Hey, boss." Does that bother you? Do you not care about that? Do you like the name boss just from a random stranger? What do you think of that?
Well, yeah, I'm not a big fan. It means that they forgot your name, probably. It's boss.
Well, no, just like somebody, like a waiter or somebody.
Oh, a stranger.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that's bad. I hate that. Yeah, what's up, boss? Yeah, that's lame. Totally lame. Would never do that. No. Yeah. That's
like, what about hey pal? You like pal better?
Yeah, no. I kind of, if it's a stranger, I go with the old to make my mom proud. Excuse me. I just say excuse me, and usually that gets the attention. I feel weird about saying anything else, especially in a day and age where you don't want to call somebody the wrong thing. I say pal, but I don't want to say pal, bud, boss. What's up, buddy? No, I'll save that for people that I know, but I don't remember their name. If it's a stranger, it's always excuse me.
I should have said stranger. Yeah, boss just rubs me the wrong way. I think maybe they have good intentions. Pal just seems kind of superficial. Buddy, I agree. If my dad called me buddy, you could call me buddy. We're going to bring in a buddy of ours in just a second. But buddy's kind of the line, right?
I'm going to take you one further. I bet you if they say bud or pal, it's good intentions. If they say boss, it's bad intentions.
What's the motivation with boss? I really don't get that.
I don't know, man. I think they're trying to be a tough guy or something. Sounds weird. I wouldn't. I'd advise against it. You should, if you could get a picture the next time. If somebody says boss, and I'm going to be in an airport on Thursday. If anybody says boss, I'll find them later. I'll take a picture of them, and we'll put their face up, and we'll say, "Is this the kind of guy or girl that says boss?" And we'll figure it out.
We'll do the boss of fame. We'll just do selfies with bosses moving forward.
There we go.
Let's do that. All right, we got a lot to get to. Let's bring in the menu. Justin Thomas, our esteemed producer, getting it done once again. It's October. You know what that means. Halloween. It's all about Halloween, my favorite holiday. That's a debate for another day. Nick and I are going to debate the best candies of all time. That could be candy. It could be candy bars, whatever your favorite treat is. Real excited about our guest. The heart of the order, ESPN's Tiffany Greene. Now, Tiffany Greene's someone I knew when she was younger. So proud of her success. The first African-American sportscaster to call a college football play-by-play game nationally, and still is doing her thing on ESPN calling WNBA. But we're going to break down Tiffany Greene's career, behind-the-scenes stuff with Deion Sanders. Really interesting interview we'll get to, and the future of women's sports as well. Our final five, Nick and I tend to get competitive. The debut of overrated, underrated, just right. And then our last word. But you know what? I don't want to be guilty of plagiarism. I want to bring in the founder of Underrated, Overrated, Just Right. Can you do the introduction? I feel like I'm a ball hog here, Nick. Can you do the introduction? Who's our special guest judge this week?
Oh, our guest judge today is a fellow colleague of ours, Dr. Jon Nachtigal. All right. Tough name to say, but it sounds good once you say it. Jon Nachtigal. Great guy, lives in the hallway with us, and a great professor of sport business management. We stole him from Alaska down to Lakeland, Florida. Doesn't get too much further away. Has several nicknames, including Nacho, Baked Alaska, and a few things we can't say right now. But we are looking forward to it. He presented the Overrated, Underrated, Just Right to us, and we are going to bring it live on Neighbors and Nugent. So we're very excited for him.
All right, let's bring in Jon right now. He comes in from the green room, all the way from Alaska. I think, where are you, Jon? Are you in your office right now?
I am in my office in beautiful Lakeland, Florida, on the campus of Florida Southern College. Couldn't be happier.
I really appreciate you joining us. We're going to kind of send you in and out of the green room because this is kind of like a game show component of this podcast where you sit and you observe and then you judge. And if I perform as well as my fantasy football team, it's not going to end well for me, is it, guys?
You are the worst. You are the worst at fantasy football, not only this year, but ESPN actually, as the league commissioner, ESPN sent me an email and they say, we're willing to give Mike some extra points because we've never seen a sport professor score so low in fantasy football. So it's turning into kind of a sad story. It was funny, but I'm not even going to make fun of you anymore because it's more sad than funny. So,
but I should get points for bringing it up because I could have just not brought it up at all.
Oh no, I was already going to bring it up anyway. So, but yeah, okay. But sure, why not? Go for it.
All right, John, we're going to debate candies. We will say goodbye to you, but bring you back. Take copious notes, and I can't wait to hear your reaction. All right, Halloween's coming up. Nick, just off the top of your head, where does Halloween rank in the pantheon of holidays for you?
Oh, I'm a big fan. I mean, I'm a Christmas guy. Nick, Saint Nick. I mean, how can you not love?
Oh, I love it.
How can you love Christmas? But very closely behind is Halloween for a couple of reasons. One, I love horror movies.
Really?
Scarier the better, scary situations. Unfortunately, nobody in my family will go to see any haunted houses with me. My wonderful wife had a bad experience at a haunted house where it turned a little scary. But other than that, I love Halloween and I love Halloween candy. So this is going to be a fun one for me.
Oh, sorry to hear about the haunted house. That's not good.
You know what happens.
All right, I'm going to have you lead off. Favorite candies, let's get to it because I know Nacho behind the scenes has some work to do. So we got to, respect his time.
I'm starting with a controversial pick, actually. And you know what? It's all about the amount that you have. You give me a handful, it's the number 3 candy. If you give me a bag, it goes all the way down to bottom. All right. But a handful of candy corn, just about the best. I love it. It's controversial. I don't care. It's Halloween. I'm bringing it back old school candy corn right off the bat.
You be you, buddy. It's all about you. You got to make it your own.
Yeah. Right? Nobody's a better me than me.
Exactly. All right. I'm going to go, not a big candy corn, but here's my thing. I don't know if I can do it. I thought about it, Nick. I'm going to try to go without eating any Halloween candy this year. I'm going to try to be self-disciplined. I'm going to try to see if I can do it. Well, you think I could do it? What do you think?
No. Well, I mean, yeah, you could. Why would you want to? That's the question.
That's true. I may change my mind. All right. My top, and I like this candy with anything. Butterfinger candy bars. Butterfingers dominate. There's a lot of good candy bars out there, but when I go to like Dairy Queen, get the Blizzard, the Butterfinger Blizzard just rolls off the tongue. Butterfinger, number 1 in my book.
It's a strong opening statement. It's a very strong opening statement. I'm going to go Charleston Chew.
Charleston Chew. Wow.
Absolutely. And it's good when it's warm, but it's better when it's cold. I love a good Charleston Chew right off the bat.
Oh my gosh. All right. I got a third one. I would be surprised if you pluck from me, and this isn't really a draft. This is kind of our opinions here. Sometimes if somebody says something, obviously we have to come up with an alternate. I love the peanut M&Ms, man. I like the regular M&Ms, but there's something about the peanut M&Ms that's dangerous because if they're in the vicinity, I can't control myself. So don't put any in my office because I'll go crazy.
I hold you in such high regard. And any given day, even when you drop down a little bit, you're still so high. You're at the top of my list in terms of being a fan of people and human beings. This just dropped you down a little bit, though. I think I lose a little bit of respect for anybody who chooses peanut M&Ms over regular M&Ms.
Really?
Yeah. So unless your number 1 is M&Ms, that's going to be a tough one to get back from. But hey, you know what? You be you.
All
right. If anybody knows me well, they know this is my favorite candy. Okay. My kids know it. If they stop by a store, they see one, they ask Mom, let's get one for Dad. They will get, Trip actually was at Dave & Buster's getting some major points, spent thousands of points on a weird little toy, but he also spent a couple hundred on a nice new Kit Kat for Dad. Yeah. So I'm going Kit Kat. Kit Kat is it for me. Warm, cold, doesn't matter. Big, small. I love a Kit Kat.
By the way, Trip, if you're listening, you and I are going to Dave & Buster's, and I cannot wait because my girls have outgrown Dave & Buster's. They're too cool for me now.
Yeah.
But Trip, it's right in your wheelhouse. You and I, Trip, if you're listening, you and I are going to Dave & Buster's.
I love it.
Here's number one for me. Butterfinger's up there, but this to me is a highly underrated candy bar. And people that I talk to, not that I care, but I hear good feedback on this. I got to be me. The 100 Grand candy bar, man, those are exceptional. You don't see them. They're not mainstream. They're not Snickers. They're not Babe Ruth. They're the 100 Grand candy bar. Highly underrated. Definitely makes my top three.
This is like people who like, a small who make the argument that a small indie rock band is the greatest band ever, or an independent film is the greatest. It's mainstream for a reason. All right. If you ask 100 people to grab something from the candy aisle, how many people are grabbing a 100 Grand bar? How many?
The same amount who will do Charleston Chew. That's why we bring Nacho back in. Okay, because you're an ultimate hypocrite. You act like Charleston Chew is some mainstream candy.
Light years better. Take it to Baked Alaska. Let's hear it.
All right, Nachtigal, what do you got?
Baked Alaska. All right. So I have candy.
He should lose points for that.
He should, absolutely. So by the rules of overrated, underrated, just right, I'm take it that you're saying that all of these are underrated. Is that correct?
Well, you know what? If you want to take it that way, you can take it that way if you like. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You're the judge.
Let's start with Nick's choices of candy corn being underrated. This is the first time I've ever heard candy corn being underrated. What is it? Is it candy? Is it corn? It's not in the shape of either. What is it? I don't think we even know what it is, really. There's sugar in there. I'd say that's a strike right there. Mike, you went with the Butterfinger?
Yeah.
Love the Butterfinger in a blizzard. I don't know if you're putting it in a blizzard when you're handing out for Halloween treats.
No.
I'll let that slide. I think I'm giving that one to Mike. As hard.
Okay, first of all, the fact that you guys you almost look alike right now. You're wearing the same shirt. I mean, I just feel like the world is going against me.
By the way, Nachtigal, I'm going to call you by your name because I respect my judges.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you this: Nick is a horrible loser. But keep going.
Okay. Next on the list, we have the Charleston Chew versus the peanut M&Ms. I don't even know what a Charleston Chew is.
Oh my! Well, you wouldn't. You've been living above the Arctic Circle for the last 20 years.
Is it nougat? What is it? Taffy? What is it? I can't believe. I have no idea. This has to be somebody from the Northeast eating Charleston Chews. I don't know what that is.
Oh my God.
Peanut M&Ms, absolutely underrated. My favorite M&M. You knocked it out of the park. Right, that's 2 for 2, and we might as well. I can't make it a clean sweep because I would agree with Nick.
Sure you can.
The Kit Kat is underrated. I love the Kit Kat. It's kind of the overlooked Halloween treat. So I would say it's definitely overrated. I'm going to say the 100 Grand bar is just right. That it's just right in the middle. It's overlooked as well, which is interesting, kind of along with the Kit Kat bar. But it's a subtle replacement for a Snickers or a Reese's peanut butter cup, something like that. Right. So I'm going to have to give this segment to Mike, as difficult as that is for me to say.
He's still in my move, John. No, he's still in my move right now. That's it. And he's pointing up way too high. If you're gonna do it right, you got to have it eye level.
I know, but I want to do it wrong just to irritate you. And if you haven't seen our podcast before, please go back and see Nick celebrate. And I love irritate because I really like Nick. But when you like someone, you really like irritating them sometimes.
Yep, I agree. Right? Well, you're doing a great. You must like me a lot. All right,
Nacho, back to the green room. Very excited to bring in our guest this week. I got to say, one of the most versatile, influential, and impactful broadcasters, sportscasters in this country, currently working for ESPN, doing a plethora of events, notably, though, the WNBA, and this time of year, hosting Black College Live and the game of the week when it comes to the HBCU. She is none other than the Tiffany Greene. Tiffany, I know you're busy. Thanks for joining Neighbors and Nugent.
Oh, I'm glad to be here, and thank you for that awesome introduction. I may have to like pluck that and use that on social media because, yeah, man, bring that on.
It's true, though. I've known you for many years, and one thing I really appreciate about you is you haven't changed a bit. And there's only going to be better things ahead for you. Just for those trying to get in the business, Nick and I talk to a lot of students. I want to get this off the top here. What would your career advice be? Because I know one thing I always liked about you is you always grinded. I know it's something you was passed down from your father, but what advice would you pass on to people trying to get in this business?
Don't be afraid to try everything, right? I know that, I was singularly focused and I wanted to, be on camera, but I literally tried everything. So in this business, you come up through the ranks and pay your dues, one-man band or multimedia journalist, as they say now. So I fell in love with shooting and editing as well as storytelling. But I also could produce a show. I could punch a show. Like literally, I was trying everything because I wanted to see what I was good at, but I also wanted to have an appreciation for the team that it takes to put on broadcast. Not only that, I think no one can beat you at being you. And there's always this sense of how do I find my voice and how do I embrace that? There's something unique and special that everybody brings to the table. So step into that or lean into that as opposed to maybe always trying to conform. There's nothing wrong with following a model, but also don't be afraid to venture out and explore other things in the process.
Awesome. Nobody can beat you at being you. I wrote that down real quick. I'm gonna have to steal that, but I'll give you credit for it. I promise. That's fantastic. Their students need to hear that. You spent some time in the Tampa Bay area. It's obviously doing very well in terms of sports. There's a lot of infrastructure going up. We're both a big fan of it, of course. Can you talk about your time in Tampa Bay a little bit? Because we have a lot of students who obviously go to school in the Tampa Bay area with us, and they are interested in staying in the Tampa Bay area, but they're not quite sure because it's not the quote unquote traditional sports market. Can you talk about your time in Tampa a little bit?
I loved my time in Tampa, and I'm still here now. This is home, and this is always going to be home for me. And Nabe says we go way back, and so my first job in television was a part-time production assistant at a startup station here, and Nabe's. Sorry, I'm always going to call him names. Was the
I want Nick to call me names.
Director there.
Anyway, go ahead. Yeah,
yeah, he was a sports anchor and director there, and so it was the place where it gave me a chance, right? Even in some form or fashion, that's where I was able to get my foot in the door. And I don't know that I necessarily thought that I would return back home to Tampa Bay, but I'm so thankful that I did because it was like, all right, I went to school K through 12 here, and my parents are rooted here. So to see like everything that's changed with the downtown area and Sparkman Wharf, and then when I was in school, the Bucks won their first Super Bowl, and now you've added another. The Lightning are doing their thing. Rays are always contenders. Like it's developed into a sports town, which I think is pretty cool, but it also has a nice, like laid back, we can detach from that if we need to as well. But oftentimes I feel like when you are in non-top 10 cities, right, in terms of market size, there are so many different type of opportunities and nooks and crannies that you can fall into because there are different outlets that are coming about or that are needing help. And if you're ready and you're on your P's and Q's and can get out there and network, there's a lot of opportunity here. And I think people sometimes sleep on that because you think, oh, New York, oh, LA, oh, Chicago. Tampa is ripe for opportunity all the way around, and the sports teams certainly help in that effort. And I think we've gotten so much more attention in the process, which I like. But again, I also like that we could just kind of fall back a little bit if we need to.
Very cool.
You can always call me Nabes, by the way. My favorite
Okay.
nickname. Nick has other nicknames for me, but I won't get to that because we don't have much
Ice cold. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, hold on. Before the next question, what you got to talk about the ice cold. Give me a minute on the ice cold. What do we got here?
Oh, she told about the ice cold. Okay.
Okay. So if I can indulge here, Outkast had a song, and Andre 3000 said, "What's cooler than being cool? Ice cold." And it just stuck. It worked. Yeah.
That was our newsroom thing. When I would see her, I'd say
thing.
ice cold. And Tiff was the same back then as she is now. That's the beauty of life, is some people change when they get successful. What I love about Tiff is she hasn't changed. The proof of it, look at her hoodie right now. The FAMU.
There we go.
She is proud of where she came from.
Fantastic.
And this is what makes what you do now with Black College Live and HBCU Game of the Week, all of that. You just must be having fun. But I got to ask you about some coach at Jackson State last year who has gone on to make some national stories this year, in Deion Sanders. I know you work with the coaches and you talk to them before you do the broadcast. Tell me a good Deion Sanders story, and how is he behind the scenes? Because I know prime time is one guy at a press conference, but I know he's a little different behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, he's the guy who invited our family out to go fishing, on his property. Like, now we used to go back and forth because, we're salt life over here, and he's a freshwater guy. So, we would jab each other back and forth about that. But, like, his level of energy is insane. Like, his attention to detail, his hands are on everything. Like, I get it, great manager and kind of overseeing people, but he is thorough. He is into everything. He knows a little bit about you have to know what's going on, but like, he is calling shots, even though he's empowering, the other coaches to do their thing. He's into everything. And I always wonder, well, like, how is that possible? Because, like, he's out here, he was selling ties, and, now he's got his sunglasses, like everything. But I was really impressed by how hands-on he was with everything, especially when I saw him at Jackson State. He had everyone reported in and showed, and he was always keeping receipts. Like that thing about keeping receipts. Yeah. Oh no, that's a real thing. Yeah. That's a real thing. And he said, no. I know such and such said this, but let me go ahead and run that tape back for you real quick in the process. So, but a really genuine person, like good person. And when I would interview him, he sits in front of a microphone and it's da 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 da, and he can put on a show. Yeah. But when we were talking, it's like almost a whisper. Hey, really? Hey sis, it's like da 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 da. I was like, wait a minute, this isn't the same dude that presents on camera. He's just like, he was just real mellow, and that was surprising to me.
It's funny. As professors, we like the fact that he's obviously also attention to detail when it comes to being the right kind of student. I love seeing those meetings in the beginning of the year going, where you're going to be. You're going to be at the front of the class. You're not going to have your headphones in. You're going to be paying attention. You're not going to be late. You're going to walk across this campus with pride. We need more of that, to be honest, in college football. We see so much negative sometimes PR when it comes to students not doing what they should because they're paying attention to what's on the field. Yeah, he's a lightning rod for football and viewership, but he's also doing a good job of telling these kids, you got to be in class. You got to be paying attention, and we love that for sure. Different question. I think to be a fan of sports, you got to be a fan that all sports are doing well, or as many sports as possible. And when we have things like, a college volleyball game getting 100,000 people in the stadium, and most recently, Iowa versus DePaul, 55,000 people. Can you talk about why that's so important, not only for women's sports, but for sports? That's what we're talking about here. It's just such a great aspect to have, and to sit back and watch that happen, and that many people go to a game to watch is just extraordinary.
I hate to be cliche and say if you build it, they will come. But literally, if you present women's sports, and I'm going to take this side really quickly, people will watch. Yeah. It's a great product. It's an interesting product, and an entertaining one that, Nebraska is bananas for volleyball, right? So that was no surprise there. And people were saying, oh wow, they pack that out. They pack out their auditorium, a gymnasium, every volleyball game, and yet they're champions several times over. It's a part of the fabric of who they are in Nebraska. So to me, that wasn't a surprise, but it maybe gave everyone else a glimpse into, what's important and what people are investing in, and people are willing to invest in women's sports. And I think, Caitlin Clark, when you have a polarizing figure like that, where everyone is just like, what's she going to do next? Edge of your seat kind of player, likely going to be the number 1 overall pick in next year's WNBA draft. Like, why would you not come out and want to see that? Why would you not want to come out and watch that? And competitiveness, people are drawn to, right? Skill, elite level talent, people naturally want that. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You just want to see somebody put on a show, give their best effort, and it's competitive. It's compelling. And I think it's going to continue in terms of a trend. Like when you look at the WNBA this past year, how many people tuned in? They cared about the super team. So you have to build the personalities, but you have those personalities in Asia Wilson and Breanna Stewart. Their whole kind of like MVP discussion, who's it going to be and who got shafted. Yeah, that's great for the game. And that's great that there is more commentary around it and more eyes are on it. And if you put more eyes on it, I think the product sells itself. The talent of these women sell itself.
Tiff, I know you got to go. I have one more for you. Your family's unbelievable. Your dad's name's Dale, right? Dale?
That's right.
Dale Greene was the first man, African-American man, to anchor in the local market in Tampa Bay. Tiffany Greene, many years later, quite a pioneer herself, the first African-American woman to call a college football game play-by-play. There'll never be another one. She's the first. And that's great, Tiff. But I know you well. And I know you always want a little bit more. And you know what? You should, because you're that good. What's still on the bucket list for Tiffany Greene? Maybe 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, where do you see yourself?
I'd love to be a voice of an NBA team. Awesome. Right. I'd love to get there. And I grew up with the Orlando Magic. So my shameless plug is, the Orlando Magic, because it's just right up I-4. But I also do hope to, you remember Gail Sarins?
Absolutely.
Called not college football, the NFL. She was the first woman to do that. So like, I want to do that. I want to follow in those footsteps. I was an intern at WFLA at the time. And now if I could be another, Tampanian to go and do something like that, I think that'd be really cool. I've always loved the NFL and been drawn to it. It's kind of like 1A, 1B when it comes to football and basketball for me in terms of call. But I definitely love to go in the pro ranks. I don't know that I have to call a championship or finals or a Super Bowl or anything like that. But just to get there, after being that kid who collected, cards and had Sports Illustrated and put posters on my wall and thinking about covering those great athletes, and now to be like, oh, I'm really in a position that I could call, they're kids now, or just about by the time it happens, is something that I feel like I'm working towards constantly. And if I get there, great. I would absolutely love that. And if I don't, that's okay too, because I have lived my dream. I have done what I've wanted to do, and anything that comes on top of this is icing on the cake.
Like the Neighbors of Nugent podcast, just icing on the cake.
That's right.
You know what? I'm going to throw out a cliche because I know you got to go. Good things happen to good people, and you're proof of that. I'm so happy to see your success. I can't wait to see more. You're the real deal in so many ways, and you're a great mom, great wife, just a great person. Thanks so much for joining us. I know our students will benefit when you talk to my class, the papers that they would write about the things that you would say. You make an impact, and I know you feel good about that, but continued success. I appreciate it.
Much love. Thank you so much. Thank you. Love you, man.
Ice cold.
Ice cold.
Oh, she was awesome. That was great. I'll tell you what, man, I expect and I can't wait to hear her calling an Orlando Magic game. That will happen in the future. I hope so. That's What a great guest. Thanks for setting that up. Awesome.
She's the real deal. I'm so proud of her, and I can't wait to see what happens to her. But speaking of being proud, I want to kind of parlay off my big victory in the 4 starters to what do we have now, Nick Nugent?
Well, we have a good one. We have our usual Final 5, but it's the debut of our first overrated, underrated, just right category. So this is going to be a good one. We're going to bring in our guest again. We're going to bring in Dr. Jon Nachtigal. He's going to come in and hear what we have to say and then make a final ruling. But we're going to do Final 5. I'm going to present the topic, a little bit of sport, a little bit of life, and then we will go back and forth. You're going to tell me if it's underrated, overrated, or just right with a little bit of justification. Are you ready?
Let's do it. This is your baby this time. This is your baby. So let's do it. All right.
First one, we're going to go with Philly cheesesteaks. The Philly cheesesteak. Not steak and cheese sandwiches, but the Philly cheesesteak.
They're definitely not overrated. I mean, to me, if I get a sandwich, that's near the top of my list. And you know what is crazy, and this may be blasphemy, my best Philly cheesesteak sandwiches have not been in Philly. They've been places outside of Philly. No offense, Philly. I'm going to say just right. I love Philly cheesesteak sandwiches. I'm going to go right down the middle. Definitely not overrated. I'm a big fan of them. I'm going to say just right.
All right. That's fair. I'm going to go underrated. I'm going to go underrated. I think they're fantastic. I think when you're in the mood for one, you get a Philly cheesesteak. It's a life-changing experience if you get a good one. But I agree. Definitely not overrated. But I'm going to say underrated. Fantastic. All right. You ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
All right. In the spirit of tonight's game, Bryce Harper. Underrated, overrated, just right.
Ooh. Boy, it's funny how, speaking of Philly, I feel a theme here. Philly is like the bad boys of baseball. It seems like you need a bad boy, you need a villain. That's what's wrong with NASCAR now. They don't have any like bad guys like the Earnhardts, the Tony Stewarts anymore. Yeah. Bryce Harper, to me, definitely not underrated for sure. I think probably a tad overrated. I think when he came out, it's not his fault. But he's that Tiger Woods. He's that next big LeBron James. He's supposed to be the big deal. He's had a really good career, but not the career I think many people thought he would have. I'm going to say slightly overrated. Interesting.
I'm going to say just right. I want to say underrated, but to be honest, look at the size of his contract and the kind of money he's making. He's rated pretty good. I think he's done some amazing things. I think he rises to the occasion. I think what he doesn't produce in stats, he produces in likes and follows and shares. He is a jackpot for a team to have. He leaves it all on the field. Certainly he's had some good things and bad things happen in his career, but man, I think tonight some magic is going to happen. Last year when he hit that home run to send them into the World Series and they had that thing going crazy on Twitter, the Moneyball clip, that was the reason why Twitter was invented. I think just right. I think he's a rock star. I can't wait to watch him tonight. It's going to be awesome.
I feel like one of his career highlights in my mind was the fight he had with Papelbon in the dugout. I just can't get that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Papelbon. Papelbon is one of my least favorite players of all time. But even when I was as a former Red Sox fan, enough. All right, next one. I'm in Seattle right now. I look in every direction, and I'm going to see one of these, and that's Starbucks. What do you think about Starbucks? Underrated, or overrated?
Well, my people are going to have a problem with this is because I don't drink coffee. And I want to get an endorsement from this because I talk to my class about it all the time. The Awake bars are an equivalent to a cup of coffee. I have them, as you guys know, in my office. I'm not a big coffee person, but even people who like coffee, I think will say that Starbucks is overrated. I feel like I'm kind of missing out because they're always packed. It's kind of like Chick-fil-A, man. They're always packed. The drive-thru is always hopping. But like my girlfriend, she likes coffee. She'll say it's overrated. So I'm not a coffee guy. So I'm going to say overrated just based on that. But just the feedback that I get from others, I'm going to say overrated.
All right. I'm with you on this one. Great minds think alike. Overrated. Yes, it's packed. It's packed all the time. I think people are just drawn to it like moth to a flame. I don't know why. It's good coffee, but definitely overrated in my books. I'd rather go small business all day long. All right, next. All right, we're going to go with one of the topics we talked about earlier on, Deion Sanders. We've talked about how we feel about him. We've talked about good things he's done. We've talked about some things he might need to work on in podcasts past. But right now, let's break it down to one of three options. Is Deion Sanders right now underrated, overrated, or just right?
And this is the body of work. He obviously.
No, I'm talking right now.
Right now,
Deion Sanders, Colorado Buffaloes coach, Deion Sanders.
I think it's easy to say overrated because he heightened the expectations early on. I'm going to say just right because I think, Deion Sanders is going to be an incredible success. Once he gets all his guys in there, and I know he brought in, 85 new players at Colorado. And I think when you look back now, USC's not as good as we thought they were. TCU's not as good. Yeah, that Colorado State game was great, but Colorado State is Colorado State, let's be honest. But Deion Sanders is making an impact. And you could say what you want about this year, what he did at Jackson State and what he did in 1 year to turn around a team. And yeah, I know we got a lot of attention, and you give him credit for that. They won one game last year. From one win last year to where they are now, to having College Game Day, to have Fox's Game Day be there, I think many will say overrated because it's played out that way. I'm going to say just right, Deion Sanders. I will say this with a caveat. Deion Sanders, whether you like him or you don't like him, you have to respect someone in their life who talks a big game but backs it up. Talked a huge game as a player, always backed it up, has talked a game as a coach, and has backed it up. But here's the thing. When they've lost, he's humble and he's hard on his team, and I've appreciated that about him. So I'm going to say just right.
I should have known when you picked the $100,000 bar that you were on your game today because I'm with you again. I completely agree. This might be the top level that I've seen ice cold Mike Neighbors perform at. But yeah, I completely agree. Just right. I think if you're expecting him to make the Final Four and win the national championship, that's probably not going to happen in the first year. I think when you get hired, your job is the first year is to do a couple of things. One, to let people know what you're about, and two, to move the team forward, and he's done that. I mean, the team is looking good. The amount of press and PR and marketing that he's brought into Colorado is just fantastic. He's already won a lot more games than last year, and they're going to win some more. So I hope they make a bowl game. I certainly think that they weren't as good as they thought they were, but he is doing a great job, and the reason they brought him in is certainly working. So I'm with you. Just right.
One more thing on Deion Sanders. The reaction to him, the roller coaster reaction on social media is why I hate social media. Yeah. Because people want to prop everybody up and then drag them down. You know, his son was obviously, boy, I can't believe his skills translated from, HBCU to Colorado and all that. You know what? You got to appreciate what he has done.
Yes.
Deion Sanders plays a lot of the social media crowd. He's the ultimate marketer.
Yeah.
He's the ultimate. But as we heard from Tiffany Greene, there's a lot of layers to him. But the layers that irritate people are actually ones that are going to help this program moving forward.
All right, I love it. Well, let's bring Nacho back in. Let's hear what he has to say. What do you think, John?
Well, from your choices, we started out with Philly cheesesteaks. Mike had just right. Nick had underrated. I'm going to say just right. As difficult as this is for me to agree with Mike, I got to say, they're middle of the road, right? It's not good.
Difficult to agree
it's
with.
Not bad. Sometimes it's great, but sometimes it's terrible. To me, it's just right. I mean, not everybody gets it right. Bryce Harper, moving on. Hall of Famer, in my mind, entered the Hall of Famer right now. Entered the league at a young age, has done everything that's been required, has come back from injury. Mike had him overrated. Nick had him just right. I would lean towards underrated. And so for me, that's in Nick's category as just right to underrated, because what more can you ask of him, really? He gets the big hits in playoffs last year. He does it all. He's switched to first base. Incredible career, just incredible in my eyes. Next is Starbucks. Starbucks, to me, you both had it overrated. Lights go off.
Good Lord. I love it.
That happened to me with a guest one time. I get it.
I'm not moving enough.
You're rolling with it, though, Nacho. Keep rolling. You got
All right. Starbucks, you both had it as overrated. For me, coffee is coffee. You're paying a premium at Starbucks. The food, not a fan. Tastes very generic. Definitely overrated. I'm with you. I'm not going to wait in line for coffee. Next, Deion Sanders. You both had him as just right. I would, as much as hype as there has been, I would lean towards underrated. I think you're both right there. The hype has been incredible, but who does what he's done? Who has a football career, a baseball career, and a coaching career at multiple levels? It's incredible, just incredible.
Yeah. And John, I have to interrupt real quick. I just pulled, I realize it now, and Mike, you might realize this, but I pulled a Mike Neighbors. I only did 4, and we got 1 left. You knew that, didn't you?
And I love it, and I love it so much. I am going to live off this forever because I wasn't going to bring it up like you, my friend. But just like fantasy football, we're going to admit our faults, aren't we?
But you know what? I caught myself. So we're going to do this. We're going to do this live right here with John. You're going to be involved. I love it. Here we go. All right. So we're going to go. The final one will go. Our guest will go first. Then Mike, you go, and then I'll go. We're going to go pumpkin flavor season. All the nonsense around pumpkin flavored coffee and donuts and everything else you can imagine. Pumpkin flavor season that we are in right now. Underrated, overrated, or just right?
I'm going first. I'm going to say overrated. I don't understand it. My wife likes it. I just don't get it. I've tried it. No, it doesn't even taste like pumpkins to me. Kind of like candy corn. Doesn't taste like candy or corn. So no, forget it. No, it's overrated.
All right, Mike, what do we got?
I think we're going to have to rename this N-cubed Nikolai, Nabes, and Nacho. I love it. Okay. Here's the thing. I love the fact that Nick knows what it is to be a host now. And you get distracted and you lose count of stuff. You know, it's hard.
You do.
All right, so I'm going to say overrated as well with the caveat that I love pumpkin pie. Like pumpkin pie is like a staple Thanksgiving, big fan of it. And I'm not a cynic when it comes to, Valentine's Day is this big Hallmark holiday. I love Valentine's Day. But I think this pumpkin stuff goes into that line of thought about marketing. We're getting too crazy with the pumpkin stuff across the board. I'll eat my pumpkin pie. I don't care about the pumpkin spice latte. Just give me my pumpkin pie. Let's just calm down a little bit. Simmer down.
I agree completely. I don't even like pumpkin pie, but I like having pumpkin pie on Halloween because that's what you're supposed to do. All right. So I have a slice of pumpkin pie. That's it. I'll carve a pumpkin, but that's all I want. That's all I want in my life to do with pumpkins. Completely overrated. Just grade A nonsense. So if I've done the math correctly, John, I believe that gives us a tie.
Yeah.
But the podcast victory has to go to the host, Mr. Mike Neighbors, since he won the candy. Mike, you're pointing too high. It's really starting to aggravate. Who is sitting above you? I mean, are you pointing to fans that we've lost? Oh my gosh! Oh my!
Congratulations,
John. Thank you so much for joining us.
But stick around. We have the last word.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We got a last word. Let's do it.
We have last word. See, Nick's forgetting all kinds of stuff. We got to bring it back here. I'm going to have Nick, do you want me to go or do you want to go first?
I'll go. I have a simple one today.
Right,
I have a simple one. All right. Very simple. I am not a Diamondbacks fan. I'm not a Phillies fan, but I am really excited for Game 7. I'm on the West Coast. I get to hang out, watch the game with Tripp tonight. I just love Game 7s. I don't care who's playing. I don't care what sport. There's just something about a Game 7 that gets me really fired up. So I don't care who wins. I'd like Bryce Harper to win. I want to see him win a World Series. But now all of a sudden you got the fact that Rangers could win their first World Series too. I'm very excited for a big Game 7 to watch tonight. Looking forward to it.
Well, I want to segue off of that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And really, you're a big hockey guy. Is there a better Game 7 than hockey, man? That's the absolute best.
It's fun, but it's also painful. I mean, I've sat through those games in the stands, and Game 7s, you can't breathe. Every single play, you're dying. Every shot, you go, I hope it doesn't go in. They're not enjoyable. I mean, when you look back on it and you win it, that's great. But, man, it's something about it. It's just unbelievable. I wish we had that feeling in football, really.
Yeah, and sometimes you feel like, boy, these players are just gutting it out, man, because this game is just going to last forever and ever and ever. Baseball can be the same way sometimes, but hockey even more so because the physical toll it takes on these players.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of winner-take-all games, there has never in the long, long history of Major League Baseball been a more successful manager when it comes to winner-take-all games than my favorite player growing up, Bruce Bochy, the current manager of the Texas Rangers. Justin, bring up the picture. I know my comrades have seen it before. Whose favorite player growing up was Bruce Bochy's? Raise your hand. Nobody. I love Bruce Bochy when he was a single-A catcher for the Cocoa Astros. He was slow, didn't have a big arm, not necessarily a good hitter, rose his way to the major leagues, and turned into a decent backup catcher for many, many years. How about this stat I found on Bruce Bochy? Nolan Ryan gave up one walk-off home run in his career. One. Who was it? Bruce Bochy.
That's
Bruce
impressive.
Bochy is the Forrest Gump of Major League Baseball. He is now on his way to potentially winning his 4th World Series. He's only the 3rd manager to take 3 different teams to the World Series. I love Bruce Bochy, an unlikely star, and I'm just so proud that I was there from the beginning. And this should be a lesson. If you root for a team and they're not successful, wait it out, because when they become great, it's a better feeling, right? You stuck with them during the tough times and the great times. I didn't know where Bruce Bochy was for many, many years. Then all of a sudden he was a manager for the San Diego Padres. Then he goes to the Giants, wins 3 World Series, went into retirement. And from what I've read, the Houston Astros and the Padres offered him a job. He turned it down, but then he took the Rangers job. And they're coming off 6 straight losing seasons, I believe, and he's taking them to the World Series. Bruce Bochy, I'm pulling for you. Let's get World Series number 4. You were already a Hall of Famer. You're just padding your stats. What do you think?
Good.
And I have the last word. Mine is I'm going to make an argument for parity in professional sports. How about the NFL? The Vikings last night knock off the 49ers, who at one point looked unbeatable. You've got Major League Baseball with the playoffs, the underdogs taking every opening round. We have the potential for Arizona in the World Series versus Texas. Who could have thought of that? None of my students in sport analytics class had that one picked, nor did I. So I'm going to make an argument for parity in professional sports. I think it's great for sports. There's a level of randomness, draws in fans. So you never quite know what to expect, which is what's so great about sports.
And that's why the NFL is king, and that's why Major League Baseball should look at it. And I know we've seen different, like the Rangers are a great example of a team, not playing well and turning it around. But it seems like baseball, we have a handful of the same cast of characters every year. The NFL, as you mentioned, John, I mean, it looked like some people were talking about were the Niners going to be undefeated this year, and they lose back-to-back games to the Browns and the Vikings. It's crazy. Yeah.
I love it. Well said.
Well, guys, it's great having us together for this. John, really appreciate your time. Nick, I love the fact that you lost count. We all make mistakes, but we all own them here on Neighbors and Nugent. We'd like to thank Tiffany Greene, our producer, Justin Thomas. Until next time, thanks for tuning in, and please subscribe. We'll see you around.